Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Tea with Emma by Diane Moody. Narrated by Chloe Cannon. It's such happiness when good people get together, and they always do. From Jane Austen's Emma. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs 19, verse 21. Prologue. Another interruption. Great. Just great. Can't a body get 5 stinking minutes without a phone call or someone knocking at the stupid door? I muttered, my teeth clenched. Hold your shorts, I'm coming. I shoved my office chair back from my cluttered desk, avoiding eye contact with the calendar hanging above my mess. September lurked a few pages back, breathing down my neck. Only 3 months to go and not a chapter written. If Samantha made one more inference about writer's block and that graveled editor's voice of hers, I would throw my keyboard at her in a New York minute. Never mind that she was 3,000 miles away in the aforementioned Big Apple. I quickly finger-combed my wild hair before throwing open the front door. "Hey, Mark," I greeted, sounding much more cheerful than I felt. "Sorry it took me so long." "No problem, Lucy. Buried in another novel?" My UPS guy smiled as he keyed in something on the big scanner gadget in his hands. I noticed a medium-sized box resting on the weathered bench beside my front door. I wish. Can't seem to get this one off the ground. I signed the gadget using the special pen he handed me. Samantha was a stickler for receipts, insisting on delivery confirmation, so I was used to this little ritual. Except I noticed this one wasn't from her. It was from my dad. I glanced up just in time to find Mark staring at me. His eyes quickly darted back to the scanner as I passed it back to him. Normally, I looked forward to his deliveries, even though his visits were brief, in typical UPS oh-so-rushed fashion. He'd always been friendly, always asked about the books he delivered fresh from my publishing house. Once, when he was ahead of schedule, he even sat down on my wicker porch chair and waited while I opened a box of my newest release, an Australian romantic comedy. I signed one for him to send to his sister, who was living in Sydney at the time. Did I mention he's also a dead ringer for that guy who played Sawyer on Lost? Yeah, that guy. Working on another sappy love story? A running joke. He assumed I wrote strictly romance. Probably a sexist remark, but I always gave him a pass on it. Getting lost in those killer dimples for a couple minutes seemed like a fair trade-off. Most of the time, that is. Today, not so much. I felt irritable and tired, and I needed to get back to work. So I played along. Yeah, nothing but sap. All that yucky, mushy stuff. You know, hey, how are you? I think I love you. Will you marry me? Happily ever after stuff. Same old, same old. He lifted the box easily and handed it to me. Hey, don't knock it till you've tried it. Sometimes that yucky, mushy stuff can be good medicine. He tossed me a wink as he turned to go. I'll remember that. Have a good one, Mark. I couldn't help but notice the tanned, muscular calves as he sprinted down the driveway. Gotta love the warm summer months when the UPS guys wear those manly brown shorts. You too, Lucy. Happy writing. The box felt surprisingly light. As I made my way back in the house, I admired Dad's perfect handwriting. Normally, I didn't have to sign for anything from him, so I was intrigued. Dad, what are you up to now? I'd missed his call the other night and only now realized I'd never listened to my voicemail or called him back. When he called, I'd been in the midst of another migraine hell. 3rd time this week, and chose to keep the pillow over my head rather than be sociable. He was always a good sport. Gertie, whatcha think? I asked my Scotty as I set the box on the kitchen table. She wagged her tail vigorously, cocking her head to one side to study the mysterious box. What would Dad be sending us? Another weather radio to protect us from the storms? I grabbed some scissors out of the kitchen drawer and snipped the packaging tape. Another deadbolt for our back door? Gertie barked. I scratched behind her left ear. I'll take that as a no. Perhaps a case of mace to carry on my next trip to New York? 2 barks. She knows him well. With the tape sliced, I opened the box, pawing through an enormous supply of styrofoam popcorn. Good grief, Dad, what could possibly need this much packing? My hands searched through mounds of the white stuff until I touched something wrapped in tissue paper. I pulled it out, knowing immediately what it was. Tears stung my eyes. For a moment, I had trouble finding my next breath. I blinked away the moisture blurring my vision and unwrapped the many layers of tissue. A delicate bone china teacup, with tiny hand-painted flowers in rose and amber resting against airy green fronds. Ornate oval frames scrolled in gold surrounded each small cluster of flowers here and there. Behind all of them, a deep red-on-red design contrasted against the cup's creamy white background. A narrow gilded leaf-like pattern rimmed the scalloped edge of the cup. Sophisticated and elegant, every hand-painted brushstroke more beautiful than the next. Aunt Lucille. Her name escaped my lips. As I closed my eyes, I saw her, seated across from me at the miniature table in the guest room she'd decorated just for me. Her red hair, always in a perfect updo of curls with a big bow in the back, wouldn't dare allow even a hint of gray. Never mind the stash of just my shade in light auburn number 2 I'd discovered in the bathroom cabinet. Her secret was safe with me. She always took time first thing every morning to apply makeup to her pale complexion, a little reinforcement to the eyebrows, a dash of blue shadow on her crinkled lids, a wisp or two of mascara to her fine lashes. Then came the rouge she so loved, kissing those powder-dusted cheeks, and the ever-present Parisian rhapsody highlighting her lips. Always the perfect companion for the bright shades of purple and turquoise she loved to wear. In my mind, I watched as she lifted the cup I now held in my hand, her pinky raised, taking a sip of hot chamomile. I watched a much younger version of myself mimic her every move. We had tea parties in my room every afternoon at 4 o'clock, tea with cinnamon scones or wedges of her mouth-watering Scottish shortbread. She'd collected vintage teacups from her travels all over the world. Each cup and saucer had a story, anecdotes she eagerly shared with me, her eyes aglow with memories of exotic trips abroad. It was the summer of my 10th year. My parents were overseas for a conference, and I had been so thrilled to take my first airplane ride to Chicago. There I could stay with my aunt and uncle while Mom and Dad were away. Aunt Lucille's only child, my cousin Stephen, was off at college, and for those 4 glorious weeks in July, I was the daughter she'd never had. And I adored her. She spoiled me rotten, and I loved every moment of it. We toured museums, we browsed the wondrous aisles of Marshall Fields downtown. We explored fabric shops tucked in the garment district of the Windy City. We went to a theater in the Round. And twice a week we shopped at the fresh market downtown, buying luscious fat blueberries and strawberries, seedless watermelons, asparagus and pole beans, and the biggest, juiciest tomatoes I'd ever seen. Lucille was an accomplished cook, and I loved sitting atop the stool in her kitchen, watching her work her magic on dishes I'd never heard of before, let alone tasted. Best of all, I got to witness the miraculous assembly of her hazelnut almond tort, an extraordinary masterpiece with 12 layers that took 3 days to make, a cake for which she was famous. I caught myself licking my lips, remembering the blended flavors of that incredible delicacy. I looked down, fingering the exquisite cup cradled in my hands. I remember, I whispered, recalling its story. When Lucille was younger, she'd found this little treasure in a quaint shop in England, near Jane Austen's hometown. My aunt loved to read, and her love of books was highly contagious that summer. She told me all about Miss Austen, the English author whose famous Regency romances had captured hearts for centuries. That summer, Aunt Lucille bought me my first Jane Austen book, a delightful comedy called Emma. It was the beginning of my lifelong love affair with the written word. Just 1 month ago today, my father called to tell me his sister, my precious aunt and namesake, had died in her sleep. The funeral was a blur to me now. I returned a few days later, leaving Mom and Dad to sort through her will and all of her possessions, along with Stephen and his family. I was already way behind deadline before I left for the funeral. When I returned, I plowed into a brick wall instead of a manuscript. I must have deleted at least a dozen false starts, each one as bad as the one before it. I just couldn't settle into a storyline I liked. I began to hate the characters that kept vying for my attention and gladly deleted them off the page, which, of course, left me with nothing but empty pages. I just couldn't find my mojo. Whatever the heck that was. Something was missing, and as I marked each day off the calendar, the pressure mounted, making my creative juices quite literally disappear. I wondered if they'd left for good. That was 3 weeks ago. An envelope floated to the surface of all that popcorn. I opened it, reading Dad's short note. Lucille specified in her will that these teacups were to go to you. I know you'll cherish them as much as she did. Love, Dad. As I carefully finished unwrapping each of the cups and their matching saucers, I kept thinking back to those tea parties with Aunt Lucille, the delicious chats we had, her endearing patience as I rattled on and on about my serious crush on Rodney. Or was it Jared? The spellbinding stories she shared about the handsome Northwestern student who courted her, married her, then enlisted in the Army infantry after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. I always hung on her every word. Oh my goodness. That's it. These teacups. The stories. Suddenly my head began to explode with ideas. Lots of them. I set the cup down and stared at it. Then I grabbed my head between my hands and closed my eyes. A whole library of movie-like scenes fast-forwarded through the camera lens inside my mind. A hopeless romantic and a modern-day twist to Jane Austen's Emma. In Austin? A misfit couple of journalists thrown together on the Oregon coast? A fresh start in a small town? And a pastor who rides a Harley? And a familiar love story set against the heartbreaking backdrop of World War II. Stop! Gertie started barking, no doubt wondering why I'd yelled. I dropped into the kitchen chair, staring off into that no-man's land where authors often discover their characters. They paraded by, one after another, already outfitted in their respective costumes, each trying to tell me something about themselves, each one carrying a teacup on a saucer. Hands down, the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. My eyes tracked back over to the collection of my aunt's teacups. Don't laugh, but I'm pretty sure I could hear their voices calling out to me. Some even had English accents. As if teacups could talk. As if teacups could talk. I grabbed the first cup and saucer I'd held, the one with the red and gold design, and took it to the sink. I washed and rinsed both pieces, then carefully dried them. I heated some water in my stainless steel teapot, and a few minutes later, a bag of Lipton tea brewed in the dainty cup I carried back to my office. I cleared the clutter and set it down, allowing it to brew a few minutes more as I opened a new file on my computer. If teacups could talk. I was amused to find those characters had all followed me into my little office. We were a bit cramped, but that's okay. We needed to get to know each other, up close and personal. It was also rather noisy, what with them all still chatting among themselves. She should tell our story first. It was our idea, after all. It's the renegade wheel off my luggage. You don't want to know. Okay, don't be alarmed, but I smell smoke in your clothes. Anyone bring the Glenn Miller records? Is that eggnog homemade? Mentally, I told them all to zip it so I could think. Even Gertie yipped as she hopped up onto her favorite chair. She sniffed the air suspiciously, then nestled into her Afghan. Did she notice our imaginary guests as well? Their whispers floating around the room? Hush! I scolded them. I mean it. Not one more word from any of you. We have work to do. I took a sip of the steaming tea, almost crossing my eyes as I studied the details of the tiny paint strokes along the rim of the cup. Then I gently put it back on its saucer, rolled up my sleeves, and started typing. Tea with Emma, a novella by Lucy Alexander. Chapter 1. British Airways Flight 6732 from London Heathrow banked effortlessly toward the south, beginning its initial descent to Austin Bergstrom International Airport. Maddie Cooper awoke, aware of the slight change in altitude. She lifted the window shade to peek at the horizon, now tilted at a perfect 45-degree angle. She gently touched the shoulder of her friend seated beside her. "Lainey, wake up. We're almost home. We're about to..." A vigorous yawn eclipsed her statement. "Right, Maddie, like I was supposed to understand that?" Elaine Morgan, known by all her friends as Lainey, clasped her fingers behind her neck, twisting her head back and forth. "Massive crick here. What time is it?" "About 6 p.m. Eastern. We're right on time." "Would the British have it any other way?" Lainey's attempt at a stodgy English accent triggered the usual laughter. Maddie arched a brow in that unspoken language between close friends, chiding the pitiful mimic. "I say, old girl, are you mocking me?" Lainey continued, still stretching her neck. "Indeed, I am most assuredly mocking you. I shan't deny it a moment longer." Maddie affected each syllable in her best English aristocratic imitation. "A fortnight in Jane Austen's very world begs me do justice to Her Majesty the Queen's native tongue. 'Twas not my intent to offend you. 'Twas only my desire to cause you mirth." I'm mirth, enough already," Lainey begged in a thick southern drawl. Their joined laughter rang louder than intended. The seat in front of Maddie abruptly snapped upright. She and Lainey tried to squelch any further outbursts, but the resulting effort caused Maddie to snort, triggering more suppressed laughter. The passenger in front of them jerked around the seat to face them with a harsh glare. "Sorry," Maddie mouthed sheepishly at him. "Is it just me?" Maddie whispered into Lainey's ear. "Or do you feel like a child reprimanded by a crotchety old school teacher? Only he's not that old. He can't be that much older than us, can he? What a jerk." Lainey smirked, dismissing the man's rude behavior with a flip of her wrist. She continued massaging the pain in her neck. "Oh, Maddie, didn't we have the most wonderful time? I feel like we've been time-traveling in another era. I just wish we could have stayed forever, don't you?" Maddie closed her eyes, reliving the sights and experiences of the past 14 days on their official Jane Austen tour. "I do, but I'm determined to bring that whole mystique back with us to Austen." She opened her eyes, turning toward Lainey. "Am I crazy to try this? Do you think I can actually pull off an authentic English tea room?" She reached for the carry-on bag below her seat. She unzipped it, digging through its contents before carefully lifting the flowered box. "What are you doing? We're about to land, silly." "I know. I can't help it." She unlatched the tray table and let it down, then set the box on it. Maddie untied the string and opened the box, lifting the tissue-covered object onto the tray. She peeled back the layers of paper, finally unveiling the fussy teacup and its matching saucer. "It's just as beautiful as I remember." "That it is." She traced her finger along the rim of the cup, the gold sparkling in the sunlight streaming through the small window. "Have you ever seen anything so fine? Look at these hand-painted flowers. Can't you just imagine the Queen herself sipping tea from this very cup?" Lainey drank from an imaginary cup, her pinky held high. "I assure you, my dear," she announced, the accent dripping, "had these royal lips touched that royal cup, you would never have been able to afford it." "Is that so?" Maddie raised her teacup to toast Lainey's air copy. "Well, please don't tell that adorable man at the gift shop where I bought it. He assured me it had history from the palace. Wink, wink." Lainey picked up the saucer, examining its design. "Those wings can be translated. If you believe that, I've got some swampland to sell you in Wales." "Surely you jest." "What, you've never heard of gaiters and crocs in the English countryside?" "Lainey." Maddie. She waved her off, then rewrapped the cup and saucer and returned them to the box. Doesn't matter. I'm so excited, it's all I can think about. The teacup? No, Egypt. The tea room. I can't remember being so sure of anything in all my life. A Jane Austen tea room. In Austin, Texas. I mean, think about it. It's gotta be destiny. And I know Nana will be excited, too, once I share all my ideas with her. I'll do my research, I'll study all about the different teas and pastries, and we'll design everything, down to the last detail. I can see it all in my head already. Patrons will think they've literally stepped into Chawton Cottage. Tell me I'm not dreaming, Lainey. Can I do it? Will you help me? Of course you can, and of course I'll help, silly. It's just what Austin needs, and no one could do it better than you. Just don't forget your promise to let me work there, my dear. The pitiful accent was back. I'll be a real asset to you, I will. The job is yours, but lose the Eliza Doolittle, will you? Deal. I still can't believe Nana surprised us with this dream trip. Can you? Lainey yawned again. She's amazing. And I think it's so funny how she conspired with Jonathan to make all the tour arrangements for us. Who knew he could pull all that together? That part doesn't surprise me at all. He can do anything. He may be her attorney, but I've watched their friendship grow the last few years. He treats her, I don't know, really special. Don't you think? Maddie smiled, envisioning dear Jonathan, his rim of white hair and the half-glasses permanently riding low on his prominent nose. She ventured down a whimsical path she'd been traveling a lot lately. Her divine call as a matchmaker was becoming clearer with each passing day. I'm not sure how to do it, but somehow I'm going to get those two together. I'm quite certain this is what God wants me to do. Help people find their soulmates. Hello? Anyone in there? Maddie blinked out of her musings and picked up where she left off. Jonathan positively adores her. All she has to do is reach for the phone and he comes running. But still, I'm blown away that she wanted to do this for us. It's just too much. Lainey cocked her head and glared at her. Too much? Look, you've taken care of her for almost 8 years now. You've had more career offers than most people have in a lifetime, yet you shelved all of them to look after Nana after her stroke. You're a saint and an angel, and she knows it. She was thrilled to do this for you. It's not that big of a leap to figure it out. She's just grateful, Maddie. Really, really grateful. She pinched her friend's elbow. I'm just glad I got to tag along. Ouch! Stop that! Maddie rubbed her elbow with great flair. Enough with the pinching, okay? Besides, you make me sound like Mother Teresa. Easy on the accolades or that Regency bonnet I bought in Southampton will never fit. Lainey blew out a weary sigh. But I'm serious. You're an inspiration to everyone who knows you. She looped her arm through Maddie's on the armrest. Me included. Not a bad birthday present either, that's for sure. But then, a girl doesn't turn 30 every day. Shh! Maddie ducked down in her seat. You don't have to broadcast it to the entire plane. Lainey rolled her eyes. What's to hide? You're smart, you're beautiful, you've got great hair. You're the most thoughtful and compassionate person I know. So what if you're still single and seriously geriatric? Stop! Maddie growled playfully, smacking Lainey's elbow and bringing on a fresh wave of giggles. Do you mind? The Pierce Brosnan accent emerged from the contorted, infuriated face of the Scrooge peering over his seat at them. Maddie blinked as her imagination took immediate flight onto the big screen. She, playing the part of Jane Austen's Emma, being reprimanded by the handsome Mr. Knightley as they practiced archery, dressed in regal finery. Only this Mr. Knightley had thick brown hair with the slightest curl in it, a bit unruly perhaps, framing a frighteningly serious face. She noticed a few streaks of gray, surprising on someone so young. Only the faintest hint of laugh lines fanned his startling blue eyes, as if he once knew laughter, but not in a long, long time.
In case you haven't noticed, no one else on this aircraft is even remotely interested in your incessant chatter and ridiculous cackling." The Brit spoke in angered tones barely above a whisper. His biting words snapped Maddie back to reality. "I suggest you attempt to contain yourselves for the remaining moments of this flight, or I shall ask the flight attendant to sequester both of you to the loo. Am I making myself quite clear?" His eyes blazed, first at Lainey, then at Maddie. Neither moved or made a sound. "Well, am I?" he demanded.
Yes, quite."
Maddie's words sounded stilted even to her own ears. She took a deep breath and exhaled slowly.
"We'll try. We really shall try, absolutely. Our deepest apologies. Deepest. Truly."
"Oh, no."
"Please tell me I didn't say that with an accent. He'll think I'm mocking him."
She clamped her mouth shut and forced a pathetic smile. Lainey elbowed her, casting an agitated glance before turning to face the intruder. "Listen, Ebenezer, I don't know who you think you are, but unless you own this big bird, what gives you the right to—" Maddie returned the jab.
"Ow!" "Please accept our apologies," Maddie interrupted, with no trace of an accent. "We won't disturb you again."
Lainey glared at her. Maddie returned a plastered smile, raising her eyebrows to communicate in their silent language again. "Not another word." The man disappeared behind the seat back, his exasperated sigh drifting between the seats. Lainey rolled her eyes again, slouching down in her seat. "Well, that was fun," she whispered. "Sounds to me like someone got up on the wrong side of the island this morning." Half an hour later, the exhausted travelers gathered their belongings from the overhead compartments and exited the plane. Maddie and Lainey carefully avoided eye contact, or any other kind of contact, with Sir Scrooge. Through the terminal, they kept a safe distance as they made their way to the baggage area. "Maddie, look. It's him." Lainey grunted as they reached their carousel. "Get a load of all those bags. He must have paid a fortune in extra baggage fees. He's got more luggage than we do combined," she snorted. "The man travels like a girl." They broke into laughter again, more from fatigue than anything else, and watched his every move. Scrooge followed the sound until he spotted them, his jaw clenching at the sight of them. Visibly irritated, he looked away, busying himself as he counted all his bags. A uniformed skycap approached him, then began loading the bags onto a cart. What's his problem, anyway? Maddie wondered, shaking off the distraction. "Look, Maddie, here comes your last suitcase. Come on, let's go. I'm beat." Maddie stepped through the crowd and reached for her bag, then stacked it atop her bigger one. Popping the handle up, she tilted the bags, rolling them behind her as she followed Lainey toward the exit doors. Lainey stopped short as her unsecured bags toppled over, spilling into everyone's path. Maddie quickly helped her gather the scattered bags, moving them out of the way.
"You know, it wouldn't hurt to use the straps to—"
"Stupid bags. I knew better than to borrow these from Alice."
"I'll get this one. Let's just go."
Maddie grabbed a smaller bag. Just as the automated doors slid open, she glanced up to see a man in an expensive dark suit, holding a printed sign bearing the burnt orange University of Texas logo. Dr. Ian Grant. "Over here. I'm Dr. Grant." At the sound of the familiar English accent, Maddie turned around just as Scrooge handed off his bags to the skycap and headed toward the man in the suit. "Welcome, Dr. Grant. I'm Howard Martin, head of the English department at the University of Texas. We've chatted on the phone." Scrooge extended his hand toward Martin, who grasped it heartily. "Right. Of course. Nice to meet you in person at last, Dr. Martin. On behalf of the university, I welcome you to the United States and to our great state of Texas. We are most excited about your upcoming year with us. I trust you had a good flight."
"Oh, great,"
Maddie muttered under her breath. "We've ruffled the feathers of a visiting professor." Lainey moaned. "Well, I guess I can kiss my raise goodbye." she whined, concerned about her job as an assistant.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?